You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Boom! That's exactly it. You know, we started the show, and right at the end, you started telling me all this stuff I didn't do. You said, bring it closer. I cannot get that song out of my mind. Trivia, what commercial was that? Get a little
Arid
closer.
Extra Dry.
That's
You
right.
cannot stump me.
That's right. With the baby fresh scent of Arid Extra. Very good. I thought I would get you with that one.
Jingle karaoke is one of my superpowers.
Do you remember the Nestea plunge?
Oh, geez, are you kidding me? I mean, that was viral before viral was a thing.
You know, people don't know about that. Chris Stone, how you doing?
And Jordan, I'm living the dream. It's Wednesday. It's time for DJ Live. We have an awesome guest, and I'm excited. You know, we get to, you know, when Dan's fashionably late, which, ladies and gentlemen, happens a lot. You know, I get to meet our guests, and she's fantastic. We hung out, you know, we're fast friends, neighbors, and I'm excited being a father and you know, of kids and dogs. This is hopefully pliable.
Well, I sought her out to go. Actually, I'll tell you how I met her when she's actually on here too. So why don't we do that without any further ado? Let's bring on the guest of the week, the reason for waking up this morning, Miss Nancy Grabe.
Yes.
Woo! Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, Grabe.
So now, did you married into Grabe?
I did.
Yes. Did you have any? Do you have daughters?
No daughters.
No, okay. So what's the nickname that your sons have had?
Well, one of them is Grabe.
Okay, they just go him as Grabe.
Because with the Grabe, and actually the younger one is Jeffrey, and you know, Jeff.
I mean, because you would be Grabby. I mean, people would be grabbing all day long. I mean, it's
gravy a lot.
Gravy, gravy.
There you go.
Yeah, Grabalicious.
Well, I grew up with the maiden name Graham, like graham crackers.
Okay. So you did all that.
I'm kind of used to it. The whole food group, you know, graham
That's
crackers, now gravy. We're good.
Well, I am so
anymore, Dan. Why don't they do the food? Remember the food groups? That's not really a thing. I don't think anymore. It's more like, well, you know, the balance of the carbs and the ketos and all of those things. It's like remember the food groups.
Oh,
you know,
the pyramid.
I'm sure there's something wrong and will be canceled now by mentioning.
Well, I heard of somebody, a family who named their two children Lamangelo and Orangelo, orange jello and lemon jello, like that was their name. And so
nice.
All right, Nancy. So let me tell you how I met Nancy. I was at one of those co-working spaces, Rome, and she was there. Who were you there with?
Brian Kramer, the business innovation team.
Yeah, Brian Kramer, the BIT, business innovation team.
Is he also in the UCBA? Lots of acronyms.
He is the president of the UCBA.
Yes, I know Brian.
Yes, so you know Brian Kramer. So, and what's your relationship with him?
Brian is my business coach and a good friend, and a member of my BNI, my business networking.
Okay, so let me ask you this: was he a friend before he was a coach, or a coach before he was a friend?
He was a friend before he was my coach. He was in my BNI group, and we became friends. And then I was like, you know, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if nobody knows you exist, and if you don't have a plan for how you're going to do it.
That's exactly right. And so, did you get that from him, or did he tell you that, or did you did you tell him that? Yeah.
No, I knew that. My dad was a business coach.
Your dad was impossible.
Oh,
really?
So I love to tell people I went to school to be a therapist. So I became, I got my master's in clinical social work, and I'm graduating at the top of my class. I'm the president of the class. I'm going to speak at graduation. And my dad, God bless him, says, I'm so disappointed. Why? You're so bright. Why are you wasting your time in therapy? And I was like, really? So a couple years later, he's working with a well-known company. So I'll leave their name out of the story.
No. We want their name. What name is it?
I guess my dad's no longer alive. I can say that. It was Bricardi. And he was just struggling with them as a family, working with each other. And, so he calls me, he goes, help. He goes, how do you do this working with families? Because I do mostly family therapy. So 2 hours later, he goes, wow, this is helpful. I know what I'm going to do. I got this under control. He goes, I get it now. I am so sorry I didn't value what you were doing. He goes, you're a business coach for families. And I said, no, Dad, you are a family therapist for businesses.
Wow.
And we became best buddies over that. And for the rest of his life, he and I talked about business and people and, getting people to work because, it's all about relationship. It doesn't matter if you're selling, if you're building something, if you're running a family, it's all about relationship. If you don't have relationship, you ain't got nothing.
Well, no, so very interesting. By the way, isn't that great, Chris Stone? She actually told us what she did without telling us what she does. Yep. Instead, she shared a story. That's money. For you salespeople out there, that was a clinic right there. So awesome. So let me ask you, because this is interesting. I always think that salespeople are part therapist, trying to figure out the world as they go in there. So was this something you were kind of drawn to, therapy, for any, like, were you always good with kind of relationships, and then you kind of you went to school to figure out why or how, and then you perfected it?
I'm convinced that everybody who does therapy has got a problem. Right. And we're trying to fix it. So short story, you can all go on my website or at my Facebook and watch the whole long story. But in third grade, I was told by a teacher I was mentally retarded and couldn't learn anymore. And she told the kids, she told them that in front of me, and then told them, well, it might be contagious, so don't play with her on the playground.
Oh, my God.
And so school became really rough. I am dyslexic. And I thought I had a auditory processing disorder. And then I had another problem in middle school. I kind of got it under control. I got to high school and there was another incident. And I never could tell. I was born in the 1960s. So you didn't go home and tell mom and dad, because today you go home and tell mom and dad and they're like, that teacher should be fired. But in my day, they were like, what did you do? Right. And it's like, I was convinced that I was probably retarded and that they didn't know it. Or they knew it and they were ignoring it, and I didn't know which, so I didn't talk about it. And so I didn't get any help. And it wasn't until college that I got support and understood that I was dyslexic, and that's why reading was so hard and all of that. But I don't ever want another child to live like that without support and help from their families. And then I got to be an adult and I realized I don't want parents to miss it, because kids don't know how to tell you. So they tell you that there's a problem by misbehaving, by acting like idiots, by, it's better to be a goofball or a troublemaker at school than it is to be stupid, right? Or for girls, they shut down and they stop talking. They cry themselves to sleep all the time. And those are signs that you need to be asking questions and figuring out what's going on and teaching them how to tell and how to get the help that they need.
So wait, who needs to be asking questions?
Mom and dad.
Okay. So I'm backing up then, because you said two things. And one of them is your dad said at the beginning, you're so smart, why you're wasting away in therapy. And your third grade teacher called you retarded. Mm-hmm. And so obviously your parents thought differently of you in the home. So which is more important, to be built up by or to be, ooh, look at that, you're doing the mouth blowing thing. My mother does that, and she does that when I say something that she totally disagrees with, and she's like, how am I going to say this in a nice way that I don't call him an idiot? So, isn't that interesting? Now, that may not be what you were.
I'm thinking you're asking the wrong question.
Aha, you see? You always know when someone
A
blows
host
up
never answers the guest questions for them, Dan.
Right.
Go ahead.
Chris Stone. So now you've learned something in sales. When someone blows their cheeks up at you, you know you've asked the wrong question. All right, young lady, what is the question? First of all, I was born actually today's my birthday, 1965. So we're in the same
You're a youngster.
What?
I said you're a youngster.
Well, you said in the 60s. And so I did the age thing. There it goes. Got that. All right. So tell me where I'm going wrong with my question.
When the child is struggling, the parent needs to be asking questions. But the question was, where is it more important to be built up or, not to be torn apart? And the reality is that we build up the wrong way. I don't know if you guys remember, those little magnets that people put on their refrigerators that said 101 ways to encourage your child. You're so wonderful. You're so great. You're so smart. You're so beautiful. You're whatever. That's useless. Kids know when it has no value. I mean, they're not stupid. And when you say, oh, you're so smart, and they're struggling at school, they're like, you're an idiot, right? And I don't trust you anymore. So we have to say things to our kids that they can believe. Mm-hmm. And so what I encourage parents to build up is how hard their kid is working, right? So if Nancy I'm a horrible speller. Shoot me before you ask me to spell a word, right? And so if I go to spell a word and I struggle with it, but you can see the wheels turning, oh, I like how you worked at that. You had a lot, I can see what that word is when I looked at that. You're almost there. Let me help you fix that. I can feel like I worked hard. And if I believe my hard work matters, I won't give up when things get difficult because life is hard. And anybody who tells you differently is a liar.
Nancy, I'd hug you. You are my mirror image. This is exactly right. I mean, it's true. I'm terribly dyslexic. I'm the worst speller on the planet. And all I value is hard work. Actually, I'm up this morning. I woke up this morning in Milledgeville, 2.5 hours away, and left the house at 4:30 in the morning because I had to get to an appointment at 7, and then rocked and roll. And I've been back to back since. All I value is hard work. I don't care about anything else. Totally right. And I was called an idiot too, but retarded actually. But by I actually went to a doctor. When I was like 3 years old, my parents took me to a doctor because they were sure I was retarded. And they told me about it too.
Well, it's interesting because Albert Einstein, right? Albert Einstein was told he was retarded as a kid.
Yeah.
And as an adult, one of my favorite quotes from him, and I never quote it exactly right, but the meaning is there. He said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm just willing to work at the problem longer than anybody else.
Yes. Yeah, very good. And I agree with your other topic too. I about how to build somebody up. I think the whole self-esteem movement has caused more problems than anything else. You don't need self-esteem. What you need is self-control. And I think that's what you mean by hard work. There, she doesn't get with the mouth thing. Look at that. So that's your tell.
It is my tell.
Yeah.
Yes. It's and yes, and I don't know if you can see it behind me. There's an ampersand up here on my desk.
Mm-hmm.
It's super important to me that we say yes and, right? Because when I say but, then I'm saying everything that you said before that I really didn't agree. Yes, but so it's yes. I agree with you, Dan. And
there you go.
There is something said about having some self-esteem, but I can't give you self-esteem and you can't give it to me. I have to earn it. Because if I don't earn it, it has no meaning.
Exactly. Self-esteem is earned. When you say you have to build it by saying you're so smart, you're actually messing them up. Excellent. So two things of agreement. And so the challenge is, I remember when we took our, and this is why I was so attracted to you and your way of thinking. I remember years ago, we had a little dog, Holly. Have you ever met her? No. Okay. So Holly, she died, and she was one of those dogs that you just anyway, I don't want to get emotional about little Holly. But so anyway, Holly is there. But when we first got her, I went to get her trained, and I didn't want to send her to a place. I kind of wanted to learn how to do it. And so before YouTube, you actually had to go places and do this. And so I went, and the first day of class, the teacher there took a newspaper, and she said, okay, so this is what you do. If your dog misbehaves, just remember, this is the first lesson. Look straight at him, roll up this newspaper, and slap yourself on the head 10 times. I mean, because it's not the dog, it's you. You're the one who are leading this dog to act appropriately or inappropriately. And I think you have that same type of thought process with how to repair a tough situation with adolescents. And so please tell us about that.
Yeah, that's such a funny story. You told me that the first time we met. I think that I want to be really careful that I'm not ever giving the impression that you as a parent caused all the problems. It's never that one-sided, but you as the parent are the only one that can get it corrected. And how you behave towards it, how you work around it, can either make the problem bigger or makes it less. And so what I do is I've helped parents, one, see the problem, because a lot of times they see a bad behavior, but they don't see the real problem. And then once you see the real problem, it's how to deal with it. We often will hear parents say things like, well, this kid is old enough to know better, so I'm just going to punish them. And the reality is, as I like to say, is, hey, listen, I'm 62. I'm old enough to fly an airplane. Would you guys like to go flying with me? Right? And the answer is no, because nobody's ever taught me how to fly an airplane. So it's like, your kid may be old enough to know something, but has anybody taught it to them? So we want to be sure that we're teaching our kids what we want them to do, and that we're hearing everything that they say to us, even if it's in their behavior more than it is in their words. Because a lot of times they don't have the right words to say it. It's like the dog, I'm peeing here because I'm angry at you. They're not peeing because they don't know not to pee in the house. They don't know how to tell you, you left me for too long, right? So the child doesn't like what you're doing, or doesn't like what's happening, and they melt down. Figure it out. I teach parents to ask good questions, to negotiate with their kids.
Yeah. So you had said one thing when we spoke, that if you take a child who has now, what are the main issues going on right now? It's anxiety and depression and just
ADHD. Yeah.
And so
back, there's a lot of this. I'm in control of myself, and I don't need you. I know more than you.
And so if you take just the child to go ahead and work that, I guess that can work, but it takes longer. Is that how you do it?
I said to you before was that I'm a family therapist, so I work with a lot of teens. I get the kid, and I would work with the kid for 2-3 years, and we finally get some real change. And I thought, geez, that's so long, and it's so expensive for the parents. And I asked one of the teens about 15 years ago, hey, would it be okay with you if I coached your mom and dad? And he's like, you're going to tell them what I'm saying? And I said, no. I'm just going to teach them how to communicate like I do with you. And he's like, oh yeah, go for it. So I started coaching the parents, and I was still seeing the kid. And 3 months later, the kid was done and graduated from therapy. And the parents have stopped in for what I call an oil change now and again, like as he's gotten older and things have changed. They're like, wait a minute, I was doing this and it's not working. And we readjust and I help them. And then they're off to the races. I want you to be the person who is the coach and the trainer and the mentor for your kid, not me. And so from that was born this whole idea of parent coaching, is that when I coach you as parents, your kids will improve 3 times as fast. We'll go from 3 years to 3 months, not in every case, but in most cases. And that's that's almost a $5,000 savings.
Listen to this. Now she sounds like she's selling cars. Does it come with the crushed velour velvet seats? Okay, so
well, if I could, Dan,
yes.
this is a sales show, and this is
yes.
there's nothing in
yes.
my opinion, there's nothing more important than parenting your children and being the best husband or wife to your partner, for sure. But I can't help but think about, especially for the audience here that's watching, that is sort of sales, and when you first get, when you work really hard in whatever position you're in sales or whatever, what do? You get a promotion, right? And you get you succeed, and then they give you a staff of people to manage. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I mean, I was really good at this, and now I've got people that I have to manage. And I think I can see the parallel here between, a manager and when I became a manager, it was the first thing. It was like, I have these people that are screwing up. And instead of taking a responsibility myself and saying, I need to be a better manager for that person, I was like, what are you doing? And then when my superior's having conversations with me about things that are going wrong, my first instinct was to blame the people that were underneath me, but it's my responsibility. And as a parent, when you see something happening with your kid, you have to take that responsibility because, like you said, they don't know yet. They don't understand yet. And we have to be able to teach them, to show them, to be great models. Sometimes that, can you talk a little bit about modeling? Is that in any of your courses as far as?
Yeah.
Okay.
Modeling is huge. Kids will do what you say, what you do and not what you say. Even though we've always said, do what I do, say, not what I do. There was this really cool study done with Bobo the clown back in the 60s. And those blow up clowns that you punch and they fall down and then they pounce back up. So they had a person sit in front of a group of children and say, this is my friend Bobo, and I want you to kick him and bite him and throw him. And the whole time he's hugging him and caressing him and, kissing him. And then they put the kids alone in the room with Bobo. Guess what they did?
They hugged him and kissed him.
They hugged him and kissed him. At the same time, they brought them into a room, a different group, same kind of kids and everything. And they took Bobo. And this time the guy said, I don't want to see you do this. And he punched him. And he says, I don't want to see you kick him. And he kicked him. And then he said, I don't want to see you bite him and, or throw him. I want you to be kind. I want you to love on him. Leave him alone in the room. And guess what the kids did? They bit him and kicked him and threw him. In fact, one of the kids picked up a toy saw and tried to saw him in half. Right? So it's like, whatever they see us do, they're going to do more of it than we do. And they're going to do it bigger. So, if you get mad in the car and you yell at somebody, right? What an idiot. Your kids are going to go beyond what an idiot. And you're going to hear lots more. And so, we need to be that good role model. So one is catching ourselves, but the other piece is being humble, right? Because that's a hard thing for all of us to do. And to say, you know what? I blew it. When you did blank, I blew up. And that really wasn't helpful. I have to apologize to you. And I think learning to apologize with integrity helps our children to, one, believe that they can apologize. Two, they feel really good about it, like you really meant it. And three, it allows them to know how to do it with somebody else outside of you, right? So if they lose it with their friends or their grandma or with a teacher, they know how to go back and say, wow, I'm really sorry. That was wrong. But beyond just that's wrong, one of the things I teach is integrous apology, which says, I imagine it made you feel like this, or this was the damage that it did, right? So if I made an offhanded comment and I made some, like, oh, Dan's a fool. Well, that could make him feel really bad and embarrassed on his own show. So I'd come back and I wouldn't just say, Dan, I'm really sorry that I called you a fool. But I would say, wow, it was wrong of me to do that. And I imagine it made you feel disrespected, embarrassed you, put you in a bad light on your show. And that's something I should never do. And then to say how you're going to make reprimands, right? If I break borrow your car and I get it scratched up, I'm going to have the car fixed. But if I hurt your reputation, now I want to ask you, hey, do you want me to go back on that group and say that was really wrong? Would you like me to leave that alone because you don't want to bring it up again? and maybe I can, go give you a review online. How, or could you just give me some time to show you I'm going to be different, right? Because I want that opportunity. Teaching our children that is huge, because when we own that stuff, we really do change and we repair our relationships.
That is just wonderful advice, and that works for really any situation. So yeah, let me ask you this then. What you're saying is brilliant, and also we kind of know that, and so and many people already have children that they know this stuff about. And if somebody says this to them in a managerial position, it's almost like you're treating me like I treat my kids. I'm feeling like you're treating me like a child, which could be insulting.
I don't think that it ever has been insulting. I do this with adults frequently. Mm-hmm. I'll double book somebody on accident, and I'll say to the parents, wow, I'm really sorry that happened. This is why. That's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. And I do not ever want to make you feel unimportant, second class, or like I wasn't taking you seriously or your problem. So, here's what we're going to do to fix it. I have never had an adult say to me, stop treating me like a kid. I mean, I do that in my life with my friends, with my family, with adults. I treat people like people.
That's exactly good. Yeah. And so this would work in a manager-employee situation. This would work as a salesperson prospect situation.
It's funny because, not funny, all of my parents have jobs, one of them at least, and then in an awful lot of cases, both mom and dad. And over and over and over again, I hear them say, it was wonderful with Junior, but I started practicing it at work. And it's unbelievable because, again, it's all about relationship. And here's the thing, as I tell parents, I'm going to teach you a skill, and I want you to practice it somewhere where the stakes are not as high emotionally. Because when we get emotionally involved, we don't think as clearly. And what I want to do is move it from the front part of your brain where you're thinking and planning and logic to the back part of your brain where it's automatic. Because once it becomes automatic, then I do it every time. And it doesn't matter how emotional I am. But until I've practiced it, and it takes 5,000 touches for something to move from here back to that autonomic part of your brain.
5,000.
5,000.
So that's when your parents say, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. No, 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 no. Mm-hmm. It takes 5,000 of those. Say thank you. Say please. Say thank you.
Well, that explains everything. That explains why I've said things 4,628 times to my kids. And they still don't.
When you say to your kid, how many times do I need to tell you? The answer is 5. And it's not. So here's the good news, right? Is that if I show you this and I say, this is a ball. Yeah. Oh, you're looking at the ball. You see the ball. I'm talking. You hear it. You see it. You try to say the word. That's 3 touches. So touches come when you see me do it with somebody else, right? So if I do this for Chris and Dan's watching, then Dan's getting it 3 times. And then I look at Dan and I do it and he gets it 3 more. So
there you go.
As we practice it, that's why what we do matters so much more than what we say, because that's where they're getting the repetition.
Nice.
Got it.
I love that. Is another, I don't want to say unexpected benefit, but like, I keep on pulling this back to sales and someone that's in the workforce, but it's the other thing too, is if you are someone that works and you have a family, right? And I'm not talking about someone that goes to work and treats their employees and people around them and peers like their kids, but at home, if you've got if you've got things more in order, right? If you've got, your family life in order with your kids, when you go to work, things flow a lot better for you, right? And so that's the other expected benefit. Not only can you just sort of apply some of these tactics, techniques, in what you do for a living, but like, happy family, that helps when you arrive at work and you're not constantly thinking about what's happening at home with, your kid who, you got in a yelling match before you went out the door and things like that, can really affect your life, your entire day, your week, your month. And so that's another unexpected, and I keep saying unexpected, but that's another great benefit of having this thing rock solid for sure.
Well, you know what? Whatever happens at home, we take to work. And what happens at work, we have a bad tendency to bring home, right? And so it's like knowing that about ourselves, giving yourself a little time to transition. It's having somebody to dump on. If you're a boss and you see somebody come in and it's obviously they're not on their game, just letting them talk. Because what we don't realize is the reason talk therapy works is because the more we talk about things, the less power it has on us. So think about it again. You guys were little boys and you probably went camping, right? And you remember that camping trip where the wind was blowing and the bush or a branch was touching the tent. And at first it was like, oh my gosh, what's out there? And then in your head, it grows, right? And suddenly there's a bear or an entire team of ninjas that are going to break into your tent and kill you. And then somebody gets brave enough to go out with the flashlight and they go, oh, it's a branch. And nobody's afraid anymore. And so when we say it over and over again, we realize how big it's gotten in our heads. It shrinks down to a size we can manage again. And now we can deal with it. And so giving your employees a chance to talk, even a salesperson, right? Like in a different part of my life, I actually sold mortgages. And a lot of times somebody needed a mortgage and I would realize, the therapist in me would come out and I'd realize that they were upset about something. If I let them talk about it, now they could hear me and they felt connected to me and they trusted me because, right, you do business with people you know, like, and trust.
Yeah, it's identifying it sometimes. I've always said to myself that the scariest movies are the ones where you never see the monster, and the monster that you create inside of your head in your thought process is always much scarier. And then when you see it, you're like, nah, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. It's kind of same idea here, except speaking it instead of seeing it, like you're saying. So that's some great points. Dan, I don't know what you were thinking, but she's a fantastic guest. I don't know.
I told you. I went out of my way. I had to. So do you do speaking for companies themselves who have this issue? Or do you do Vistage work or where, like, in the corporate world?
What's Vistage work? I don't know what that is.
Vistage? Okay. Yeah. You said you were in a BNI group or a networking group. So Vistage is basically that, but for CEOs of companies.
Oh.
And so it's and they have speakers that come in to speak to those people. But this is a perfect kind of topic in the HR world that needs it. Let me ask you this: how can somebody access your work without actually getting you in person and your exorbitant prices?
Oh, well, I hope I'm not exorbitant.
Well, you ought to be. I mean, you ought to be. How much money can you save by fixing a child's depression, anxiety, and possible drug usage in 3 months instead of 15 years?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a gazillion dollars. It's worth whatever it takes. Don't look at the price to pay for it. Look at the savings in the outcome of this, which is literally priceless. I'm sorry, I'm on a rant. Hold on a second. When somebody is in that stage that you were talking about earlier, that they're so worked up that they can't think straight, and they're in that kind of spiral going downhill, the parents, that's all you think about. Everything suffers. Everything suffers. Your marriage suffers. Your relations with extended family suffers. Your friends don't want to be around you, and your work suffers. It costs you everything. So, Nancy, yes, you ought to have exorbitant prices.
Okay, so the places that you can find me. How's that?
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, and there's lots of little videos. My theory is that there are three kinds of people in the world. There's the people who are going to go to Facebook and they're going to watch those videos and they're going to go, oh, that's just what I needed. Just kind of kickstart me. there's going to be the people who need to go in and watch some of my more other videos. So if you go take this quiz, it's right there. Thanks for throwing that up there, Chris. Right? It's if you take the quiz and you know what kind of a parent you are versus what kind of parent you should be, or you might not want to be, that's enough to get you going. Then there's people, and that's more like me. I want to talk about what I'm learning, because if I don't talk about it, I can't own it and I can't do it. So you can go to the website, take the quiz. You can sign up to watch some of the videos, pay for those. And you can do that. And then you can sign up for our parenting coaching. So we do group coaching and we do individual coaching, and we talk about all the different kinds of parenting and all the different kinds of skills. And then the other way that I do this is that I go to churches and synagogues and private schools and businesses and business organizations. If you have a Lions Club or a civic organization, Kiwanis, I was a Key Clubber, right? I'll go and I'll talk at those places because people need just some of that information. Do you just need a little bit of a kickstart? Do you need information and to talk in a small group? Do you need individual one-on-one kind of work? And I do all three of those. And so if you have a school or a organization of parents or managers, I have done work with businesses that want me to come talk to their managers about how to help their employees or the people under them and give them somebody to send them to, right? Because there's things that we shouldn't be dealing with ourselves, right? That's not what you get paid for as a manager.
Very good. And so, yeah, that self-examination. Now, people are different. And do you bring a different approach to different styles of people? For instance, you called me a fool earlier, which I'm not. Obviously, I'm an idiot, and you had the wrong word. But I'm the type of person that you literally can't hurt my feelings. It's impossible. I tell people I'm from New Jersey. I don't think it's even legal to be able to get offended. I mean, I couldn't care less. It's a terrible affliction. People will, give me the finger and I smile at them. I literally don't care. I just don't care. But there are people that will get offended out the wazoo if you say,
look at them sideways.
If you use the wrong, pronoun now is a new thing, and they get like offended. I'm like, well, whatever. And so how do you deal with that? Like, do you ever get to the point you just say, you got to get over it?
Yeah, absolutely. We deal with that. And are there moments that I want to say, or that any parent wants to say, get over it? I love have you seen Bob Newhart? If you haven't, there's he does a little YouTube video that you can watch about stop it, right? As a therapist.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Just stop it. Just stop it. Right? It doesn't work, right? If you could, you would, right?
Yeah.
So often, whatever it is. So yes, we meet. I meet the parents where they're at. I meet the kid where they're at. And then I teach the parents to do that. And I have this Velcro board that I have. And, one of the Velcro boards, it's got like industrial Velcro on it. And then there's the regular Velcro. And then I took heat iron and I burnt off some of the hooks. And that's another Velcro. And I've got 4 pieces of Velcro on this board. And I go, you get in the car and the tire blows, and dad pulls to the side of the road, and mom's like, oh my God, we can't have the kids in the car because they're going to get, if you have an accident, the car falls, but I can't put them on the road and she's all like, right. She's got a lot of Velcro, maybe not the highest end Velcro, but she's got a lot of Velcro. And dad's like, no Velcro at all. He's like, they're going to live. Put them on the side of the road. If you need to, tie them to a tree, right? Come on, let's just do this. And mom's like, what? How come you don't think this is important? And one of the kids in the back seat is going, can I help, Dad? Because he's got less Velcro. And the other one's like watching mom and going, we're going to die on the side of the road. And they've got so much Velcro that they don't get over it until you make it all the way to wherever you're going 2 hours later. And to know how much Velcro everybody in your family has, how much Velcro that salesperson or your client has is so important. And then you deal with them where they're at. It doesn't mean that you placate them, but you acknowledge where they're at because, and I'll do this. This is a brain. And I do this to say you flipped your lid, right? If you flipped your lid, then I'm dealing with your limbic system, that emotional part of your brain. how effective is it to have a conversation with somebody's emotional brain where this part of your brain is the prefrontal cortex? It's planning and reasoning and logic and language. That's who I want to talk to. And it takes 15 to 20 minutes for it to calm down. And the more Velcro you have, the longer it's going to take. And so I teach tricks and tips on how to lower that level of cortisol that causes that disconnect. I talk to you about how to notice that it's happening, how to catch it happening and stop it from happening, right? And all of those things are super important because I'm not going to listen to you unless I know you care about me, right? And nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And part of that is calming them down and helping them to feel safe, right? And that's one of my fun videos that I've done. I need to update that video again. But knowing that is huge.
Yeah, and you're teaching this to grown-ups?
Oh yeah.
You know,
I have parents walking through the room going like this to their spouse, which means you flipped your lid, stop talking to our kid.
Oh right? Yeah.
I've been married 40 years. I still do that to my husband. I'm like, okay, I think we need to take a time out. Right? One of us is there. I am talking about it, right? Yeah. One of us is going to lose it. Let's calm down and we'll come back to this.
Really? Yeah, I think now. Do you find with the parents that are having these issues with children, and I don't want to, like you said, I'm not blaming the parents for everything, but the parents can fix it. I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. Do you find that they had gone into this? Like, did they have no plan whatsoever? Like my wife and I originally, you have a couple of rules that, your parents have told you for a million years what to do about never go to bed angry and, always have a united front with whatever the kids are doing. Those are just like old wives' tales, but I guess they were somewhat good. But at least there was some planning. Do you meet people that have had like no planning whatsoever? Like that's not how you raise a child. That is, and like didn't even think about it before they did it?
I've had people at all ends. I had one client that had written down everything her mother did that she disliked, and she was never going to do it. And she had it on the refrigerator. Oh. And she called me in tears and said, "I've scratched off everything on the list. I'm in trouble."
It's awesome.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. I'm my mother after all. Or I opened my mouth and my mom came out. And it's like when we get upset, we're going to default to what we know. And so however mom and dad treated us for good or for bad, we're likely to do. And then I have parents that it's just going to be different. I'm never going to do that. And I'm going to be this wonderful, loving, and that we want to be their best friends. And they don't need a best friend. They need a parent. And the goal, right, is if I do my job of being a good parent, the prize at the end is I get an adult that not only wants to be my friend, but I want to be friends with because they turned out good. Right?
Yeah. If you want to, if your goal is to make your kid your friend, you'll wind up with neither a friend or a well-adjusted adult.
It's true. Do you know what MOM stands for?
No.
It stands for mean old mother. And if your child doesn't tell you while they're growing up that you're mean, you're old, you don't understand, you're miserable, then you're not doing your job.
That's funny. My daughter just wrote me a text today. Like I said, it was my birthday. And she says, "Oh my gosh, you're so close to death." Like that's what she said. That's my girl. But because that was what I talked about before was significant. So I had one of those moments. My dad was a European immigrant, lost his family in the war, the whole thing, just a family oriented. He was a ball of emotion wrapped in skin. Like that was my dad. There was no logic whatsoever. And when he would get, when he was loving, he was as good as they get. He was a bowl of mush. But when he got angry, when he got nervous or worried that he was going to lose something, that was his thing, especially involving his children. I mean, there was no controlling him. Veins coming out of the neck. He would go after anybody, anywhere, anytime, a real lunatic. And if I was on the wrong end of that, and so I was probably 13, 14 one day, and he was in one of his rages. And I learned not to say anything. I was just going to sit there and take it. And so I'm just there and I let him go, you don't have anything to say? And I'm like, I don't want to say anything because you're going to keep on going. And they would go away and come back for more, when he'd think of something. Anyway, so one day when he was done with this whole big thing, and I guess I thought I was bigger than I was at the time, but I looked at him in the eyes and I said, just a few certain words very slowly. And I said, I am never going to treat my son the way you just yelled at me. That was it. Just stopped it. I watched this monster shrivel into nothing. Never did it again. He reminded me of that years later when I had kids. He reminded me of that. Like that was like a poignant moment in his life. And I haven't. I don't yell. I don't yell. In fact, if my wife yells at me, my wife says all those things that you said. How many times have I told you, use this towel instead of that towel? I get all those things. And, but if someone's yelling at me now, I just walk away. I don't even engage. I just walk away. See you later, potato.
One of the things that I teach parents and kids, so I like to teach the whole family, is that when I flip to my lid or when somebody's going to or feels like they might, that we can call time out. It's good to walk away. But someone in the group will often, almost always, feel abandoned. Like, what do you mean you're leaving? We've got to deal with this. Are you ever going to come back? Are we ever going to finish it? Will it ever go away? So it's like, tell me when we're going to talk about it. You go take a shower, because I know that'll help you calm down. And we'll talk, or let's talk tomorrow morning at breakfast, or, I'm going to go for a walk. And when I get back, right? Because it takes 15 to 20 minutes for that calming down to happen. And we'll talk. But I often, if you were losing it, right? If Chris and I are talking and he's losing it.
Yeah. Chris is a maniac. That guy will go.
I can totally tell.
You can tell.
But I would say, hey, you know what, Chris, I'm feeling like one of us is not where we need to be right now. I'm not going to say you're not, because the minute I do that, I am going to be assured that he's like this, right? I'm just going to say, I feel like one of us isn't what, and I don't want either one of us to say or do something we don't really mean. I need some time to think about this. How about if we talk after dinner? Right? Let me think about this some more. Now, when I come back, because I was the one who asked for it, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go, Chris, really thought about what we were talking about. And I was trying to think about it from your perspective. And I feel like, you might be feeling like this. It doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean I'm saying you're right. It's just saying, I'm trying to see your side of it. Because if I see your side and you see my side, it's a lot easier to come to an agreement.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of times in the heat of the moment, things that's when regrets happen and you say things that you want. And sometimes it's about solving these problems and solving these issues, but sometimes it's not about solving them right now, right this second, right? Sometimes it takes days, maybe even years. Like in the case of you, Dan, it was like years later, he came to you and thank God he had that conversation with you and was open with you. And, a lot of this is about your legacy as a parent, right? So when we talk about modeling and doing all these things and passing these things down, you don't know what you could be saying or doing that eventually years and years and years later, your son, your daughter, your grandsons, your granddaughters, it's like, that was a part of what we're going to be 6 feet under at that point. But that's the kind of stuff I think about when I have birthdays and I'm, as old as dirt, like Dan Jordan is today, which by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching
57,
in the chat, wish this man a happy birthday. But yeah, sometimes, sometimes when you're in that moment and you're in the heat and you're like, well, why am I so hot about this? Like you said, let's, hey, you know what? Let's pause. We don't have to do this right now. Doesn't have to be solved right now. And I think that was something for me in parenting and also in being a husband as well. It's like I just want to solve problems all the time. It's just like, okay, well, we got to get through this. We got to get through this. We can't stop. And it's just like, wait a minute. I'm not doing anything constructive at this point. right? Let's not ignore it. Let's not kick the can down the road so it reappears months later, but let me dial down the temperature, come back and think about what I'm going to say and I don't say something I'm going to regret.
Yeah, and I think the goals need to be in the same place. But I love, by the way, Nancy, I have to say, in terms of sales, your talk track is great. They're well rehearsed. The lines that you use to diffuse the situation, because very early on in a marriage, you learn there's 2 words you can say to get the exact opposite result, and those 2 words are calm down. You say, look at you. That's deserving. There you go. Of a cheek fill. Never. You say calm down, you're going to get the opposite result. But I think this works in a business situation just as well. How much does it cost? It's $10,000. Oh, listen, I planned on paying $4,000. You could just back off and just say, instead of just just back off and say, you know what, I'm going to think about that. I don't want to give you a response right now because of all the work we did. We know that it's worth more than that. I don't want to say something that that I'm going to regret later. So let's come back and we'll revisit the price in a minute. I'm sure they come back and say, okay, whatever, we move them from there. But if you get insulted, you're in trouble.
So let me give you a couple of little gifts.
Okay. Oh, make her big. Crystal.
Make them big. Okay, big gifts. So here's one of the things that I've learned a long time ago, right? Is that when my kids or a client or a friend says something to me and I feel that coming up, I'm going to blow, I diffuse it with something called mirroring. And mirroring is like the Jedi mind trick. And it's Chris Voss teaches this beautifully. He teaches... he's an FBI agent who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. And I love that stuff. But I love it. And I use it a lot with my parents. I did it in the past. I just didn't have his cool names for it. And what you do is you say the last 2 or 3 important words they said. So, your kid looks at you and they go, I hate you. I wish you were dead. Nobody wants to hear that from their kids. And most of us will hear some rendition of that at some point in our lives if we're doing a good job parenting. And one of the greatest answers in the world is not to answer and not to ask a question, right? Because if I say, you wish I was dead, and the voice goes up, then it's a question. I'm not doing that. I'm making a statement. It's flat. You wish I was dead. And the kid goes, well, maybe not dead, but you're just so frustrated. It causes the other person to give you more information. You say, hey, it's going to be $10,000. And they go, oh, we were only going to pay $4,000. Only planned for $4,000. And they go, yeah, because we thought blah, blah, blah. And you're going to get the real information. And then you can deal with the real problem instead of the jump, because we will often go someplace we shouldn't, and we start answering the wrong question. How dare you say you wish I was dead? I can't believe you're talking to me. If I'd said that to my mom, I'd have had my head in the next county, go to your room. Well, you've just lost the opportunity. If I just go, you wish I was dead. Well, I don't really wish you were dead. I just get so mad. And now I'm like, you get so mad. Well, yeah,
that's great.
Blah, 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 blah. Practices. I'm going to challenge you when you go to the grocery store or and you're checking out and the cashier is like, and you go, been a rough day. And they go, yeah, you have no idea how bad I've been treated. How bad you've been treated, and see how much more information they give you. Or you run into a neighbor and they're like, oh, it looks like there's going to be a horrible storm. Use their words and say it back and see if you can do it. Because if you practice that, it will become automatic. And when your kids offend you or an employee offends you or a customer, you'll be able to bounce back with that mirroring and get a really good conversation going.
That is money right there, Chris Stone. You see? And you didn't want Nancy Grabe to come. That's how it is. That was terrific. Okay, so who's your best customer?
So my avatar, right, is that 35 to 45-year-old mom, generally speaking, because moms see there's a problem before men. No offense, guys. That they're so invested in their kids are and how they're doing, and they think it's a direct a front on who they are. Like, and it says that I'm a bad parent if they're not happy and they have to fix it all for them. And those parents really want to get help. They tend to be women who like coaching, have a coach, have gotten a mentor, go to the gym, those kinds of people, because they know how to use coaching and mentoring.
Well, now, do you find that if the mom comes to you to talk about you, she blames the dad?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's so funny. I actually, and I wish I brought it over with me. I have a seesaw that I've made, and I have a little block in the middle. This is the child. And on either side, I've got two blue blocks, and it's mom and dad. And one parent is always a little softer and kinder and more gentle. And one's always just a little tougher, right? And so mom usually, and I'll just pick on moms and dads a little, right? Moms are usually the more gentle. Not always. I have seen a lot of the other, but let's just do that for my example. And mom's like, oh, you poor baby, we're going to make it better. And so she's like over here. And dad's like, you're going to make a wuss out of our son. So he gets tougher. Because he got tougher, mom feels like she's got to make up for it. So she moves out here. And the seesaw is going like this every time you move it, right? And the kid's in the middle getting going. And then, because mom got gentler, dad got tougher, and then pretty soon they're here. They don't like each other. They don't trust each other. They're blaming each other constantly. And the kid's the one in the middle. And I tell them, it doesn't matter what dad's doing, mom, move back. Doesn't matter what mom's doing, dad, move back. Be who you know you need to be and trust, right? I am a softer, gentler person. I'm not a yeller. I'm going to talk to you. You're not going to get off scot-free, let me tell you. But I'm going to talk to you, and we're going to work through it. And my husband's going to blow. He blows like this, and he comes right back down. And I was frightened of that for a long time. And I did my kids a favor by just letting him be him and my staying where I belong no matter what, no matter how mean I thought he was getting. I would say things to him later in private, but doing that. And that helps so much. I have a really good track record, though, of mom bringing dad in and being able to talk to dad and help him buy in and then help his wife stay where she needs to stay. And that, one of my favorite things in the whole world. I've got like 4 dads right now who are like, oh my God, not only have you saved our kid, but our marriage, and I'm using this stuff at work. They end up being some of my best clients. Getting them in, it's sort of like, if I just punish this kid, they're going to be okay. And I get that. That's what they were told. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, suck it up, buttercup. And I get it. I totally understand it, but you need help to do it differently.
Interesting. Were you a Chris Stone? Were you a punisher? Did you punish? I don't know that I've ever punished my kids.
The word punish makes it sound like I busted out a belt or like my dad did, which was a meter stick. I mean, I think if after a certain point, they weren't doing things and you try, well, that didn't work. So let me try this, that, or the other. I mean, whether it was, it was usually if you found something that was very important to them in terms of some sort of item, if you were to take it away for a period of time, that usually helped them, sort of learn that they shouldn't be doing that. And that if they continue to do it, then they would lose whatever that item was.
My kids were, and Nancy, I apologize. It's your show, and here I am jumping in. But now everybody feels like we need your help here right now. But my kids were one of those that were really affected by, they didn't want me to be disappointed in them. Mm-hmm. Like that was their thing. If daddy was disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
That was the muscle. I didn't like to do it much because it made it, they shrunk. It was terrible to watch them with that thing.
There's 3 kids in my family, me being the middle child. So my older brother, you could tell him you were disappointed in him forever. And he's like, that sucks to be you. Right. and so that wasn't useful. Right. If you even looked at me like you might think about saying, I'm disappointed. I was in my bedroom you could have beaten me. I would rather you beat me. Please hit me, right? That just hurts so much. And my sister, and it'll be funny, I'll have to ask her, but she was kind of the in-between. She didn't want to disappoint them, but it was like, hey, some things are worth disappointing you over, right? I have found that kids will behave if you punish them. But when you're not there, they don't always do it because they haven't internalized it. So what we want to do is we want to help them internalize it. There are consequences for behaviors. If I drive too fast, I'm probably going to get a ticket, right? And sometimes you'll get a warning the first time you get a ticket and they say, hey, don't do that. And then the next time they're like, hey, you got a warning last time, you're going to get a ticket. And if you get too many tickets, you lose your license. And I like to think of it not as punishment, but as natural consequences because they help kids learn. And I go, hey, I've asked you not to leave your clothes on the stairs, and you keep doing that. And I'm afraid I'm going to slip and fall. What are we going to do about it? How am I going to help you? And if it happens again, this is the consequence, right? I'm just going to take that piece of clothing and it's going in the garbage, or I'm taking it to Goodwill because obviously you don't care about it.
Got it. Yeah, but there are some
what to do.
Yeah, I guess the bigger issues, and you don't prescribe drugs, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay.
In fact, one of the things I hope to do is help your kids so that there is less of a need for them, or if you do need them, you don't need as much of them.
That's it. Well, excellent. Yeah, because that whole thing. Nancy, you've been awesome. Thank you so much. It's rare that I actually, aside from learning unbelievable electronic skills from Chris Stone, I hardly ever learn anything on this show. But you, young lady, I think have made me a better person. And so I really appreciate you for coming on and doing this. And if anybody needs to get a hold of Nancy, this is the action right here. Chris Stone is awesome with showing you the stuff here. And this has been great. Can you believe it's been an hour?
No.
I know. That's how it rolls here on Dan Jordan Show. Chris Stone, once again, no one is better than you. Look at that guy. Just taking care of stuff, flashing. Things are moving left and right. You think, that doesn't come cheap, Nancy Grabe.
Spinning plates.
Yeah, that's what he does. He's doing
Happy birthday, Dan Jordan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, happy birthday.
And Nancy, best birthday present ever was having you on the show. I wish nothing but good things to happen to you all for the rest of your lives. Eat well, live long, and prosper. Go get them today.
Go get them.